Hello folks, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Marc Randazza's blog and some of his posts. I wanted to talk about just the one main one, but quite a few other things have come up. I haven't looked at this one yet. New York Times, I think I've talked about David Carr many times. And he's linked to all of his friends that have done articles about me. They're all accusing me of extortion, basically just a lynch mob. I'm not an extortionist. Okay. Now he's posted this, and I just want to address that a little bit. Stephanie DeYoung, as I told you in some of my information, I was talking about Kevin Patrick and where the money went after there was a bankruptcy. So when a company goes bankrupt, then the trustee is in charge of the money. Now, the trustee had no oversight. There was conflict of interest, all the stuff I've been saying about the trustee. So, and that's where the money was when I started writing about it. So that's what I did, is I talked about where the money was. And Marc Newman was emailing me. He was one of the principals quite a bit. And eventually I posted a bunch of those emails. At one time there was kind of a huge family rift where Marc Newman turned on his own daughter, and I won't talk about that too much, but so I posted all those emails. There was like 40 of them between me and Marc. And so they had printed out a bunch of emails too between me and Stephanie about all this. And through this, of course, you know, we had become friends. We certainly were not more than friends, and I met Stephanie DeYoung last November, about 3 weeks before the trial. I went to Bend, Oregon. I asked her for some discovery for the lawsuit, and she gave me the discovery. And her husband supported me at my trial. I have nothing but respect for Stephanie DeYoung. She is a brave woman. She has fought for something that no one else was fighting for. She's a CPA, she's an insider, she's done amazing for exposing the bankruptcy industry, and I do respect her very much. The thing is that Stephanie DeYoung did not own Summit Accommodators, and it came down to the point where, as a real estate broker owner, I have issue with the 1031 exchange industry. I don't think that 1031 exchange companies should have that money 180 days interest-free. I think the 1031 exchange industry is broken. So I told her, at some point, I will be writing about her family, her father, the principals, what really happened in the first place. So when there was issues in their family, and I'm not going to talk about that because I believe it's a HIPAA violation, the people that are, and it's a delicate situation that I don't really want to talk about. However, it was time for me to talk about the other side. So I started talking about Marc Newman, and in bringing up all of the information about the principals, I also brought up information about her new husband because he was one of the investors too, and there was just a whole bunch of information that had surfaced through what was happening at the time. So I started writing about her family, and so she got pissed off at me, and so then she started attacking me online, even though I'd been helping her for a couple of years to expose Kevin Patrick and the other side. But see, I didn't really have, I was writing the story, so I was promoting the other side. So yeah, I guess in a way I kind of turned on Stephanie, but it wasn't Stephanie's company. So yes, she was a whistleblower and she was telling the story, but at the same time, there was more to the story. The story was, how did this happen in the first place? So I started exposing her father, and in that, some of her other family members, because they had invested. So she started trashing me. And yes, she was hospitalized, as I said. Like I said, that's not going to talk about. This is actually, I'm not sure if this is still online or not. She'd posted it on one time. I don't know where he got this, but it seems like Marc Randazza, it's $250,000 every time you do a HIPAA violation. So I think this is probably maybe a HIPAA violation for that, but I'll let that come out later. But now I want nothing to do with you because you hurt people who are innocent by constantly lying and switching stories. And so, yeah, depending on who you're mad at. Well, I was upset with her father. First of all, for what he'd done to her, turning on his own daughter. I was upset because I heard the victims crying who'd lost the money that Summit had been involved in. I in no way think that Summit are the good guys. I was complaining and exposing Kevin Patrick because of where the money went after Summit. That doesn't justify what Summit did when they went bankrupt. So when I started writing about the original company that went bankrupt and how that went bad, Stephanie got really upset about me. And then she called, it's not journalism, it's not investigative reporting. The thing is that that's because I had turned to exposing her family. And I was not in love with Stephanie DeYoung. Stephanie DeYoung and I had become very close. We'd talked on the phone a lot. I talked to her after her FBI interview. We'd become very close, but we never had anything more than friends. Like I said, I met her and her family in November, and I stayed at her house a few days, and she gave me some documents that I'd asked for. And then I left and went to see family in Oregon. So I just... I didn't even know her during this time. So she was just very, very mad. And so this got published online because she was mad. I don't really know if it's still online today. For some reason, I guess I just never knew it was out there still. So anyway, she wants nothing to do with me. But that's part of what I'd said. You can see that in my countersuit, I named her. And also, you can see that I had said, like, that the Summit boys had went to jail, that there was a rift, and you can see when I've recently posted my emails between me and David Amon, I copied Stephanie on that, and I also put in that I wouldn't, that my services did not include her, because I was just copying her to let her know that she was no longer going to be writing on my blogs, because at one point she was writing on many of my blogs as well. So anyway, she was very upset and turning on me. So she says, you want a war? Have it with yourself. Anyway, once she did this, I did nothing to retaliate in the search engines. I didn't expose anything. I didn't do anything. I just let this happen, and like I said, I didn't know it was still out there because she wasn't the story. I really admired her strength for being a whistleblower, and so I didn't ever do anything to attack her. We just had a rift, and so we didn't talk for a long time until this lawsuit. And then, yes, I countersued her. Well, of course I named her my countersuit because the information came from all of those people, right? I didn't make the information up. It was part of the Summit bankruptcy. So if they're going to sue me for $10 million, I'm going to countersue the other people. So the true predators, Kevin Patrick, Tonkin Torp, Obsidian Finance, you've made a mess out of blogging. That's because I started writing about her family. So anyway, it's basically, that's kind of what this is. And you can believe what it is you need to believe it, but that's kind of where... that's what I have to say about it. So anyway, yes, Stephanie DeYoung's statement on Crystal Cox. But, she's also said a million wonderful things about me. So anyway, there's nothing I can do about what you believe, but I just wanted to tell you that just a little bit, give you something to chew on. Okay. Now, this post is the one I really want to talk about, but let's see. In a way, this nutcase is helping to prove why bad speech. Okay. When she turned her attention to Kevin Patrick, there wasn't much he could do except take it. Take it. Sorry. Take the traditional road to filing a lawsuit. Yeah, there was a lot he could do. He could send me a link, and he could have asked me to take it down and told me why. Sent me a document. Stephanie DeYoung, her dad, many other investors, many insiders sent me tons of documents. I had links of audios. I had all kinds of stuff from the other side, and they sent it to me. I didn't ask them for it. So he could have sent me information. He could have asked me to drop the post. He could have picked up the phone and called me after they deposed Stephanie DeYoung and asked about me. They could have called and talked to me. They didn't do any of that. So a lawsuit really wasn't the best option here. While that was successful, the damage was done and seemingly could not be undone. Yeah, if that post was the damage, then yes, it could easily be undone. They could have given me a link and proved that that post was not factual. I still don't really believe 100% that that post is not factual. They say it was proven to the jury. I don't really think that it is provable to the jury. Also, if you remember, I was granted a summary judgment on my sites that said all of the stuff that everybody's complaining about. They said that it was, under free speech, all of that. So Marc Randazza is just trying to, because he's upset, and I turned on him because he was trying to help the plaintiff in giving them a deposition to set me up for extortion. So he's just turning on me, and he's just saying things that really are not based in fact. Other parties who contacted me directly told me how they too have been victimized by her. I'm guessing that Sean Boucher, if you subpoena the records, phone records or emails of Marc Randazza, you can probably see that Sean Boucher is talking to him. He is the man who, he's talked to David Amon. He had a hate group about me. He's been harassing me for years. I have, well, if you go to www.montanacorruption.com, you can then link to the other site from there. And he sends people information on me no matter what. And so, as far as victimized, every story that the New York Times writes about, Forbes writes about, Seattle, you know, the Los Angeles Times, any newspaper out there, every story that they write about doesn't mean that person's a victim. I didn't create the story. I'm just getting the whistleblowers heard, and I'm adding, you know, my opinion of it. In the post I was on trial for, as you see, that post was a little bit different. However, it's nobody's talking about the facts of the post. Nobody's talking about what Kevin Patrick did to these people or investigating it. Nobody's talking about Summit or none of that. They're just talking about the fact that they think I'm an extortionist because people are telling them that I've written stories on that I'm an extortionist, but that's not true. Okay, so strongly believes in free speech, but, you know, not when it comes to me, of course. Anyway, we'll talk about more of this later. Okay, you may have noticed last week some bloggers wrote nice things about me. Yeah, yeah, we noticed. Some of them are complete strangers. Yeah, sure they are. All of them wrote what they thought was the truth, and they did so to show more speech to create bad speech. Okay, so the person who said more speech is the best cure for bad speech is, well, I believe it's Kenneth White that has popehat.com, and he's inciting this lynch mob. And I believe he is an attorney in LA who has a very bad taste for pro se people. And so follow the money, folks. Look where the money's going. They're attacking me. And, you know, there's no money going to me. There's no bank records of anybody that has paid me to remove anything. There's no records of any extortion. You know, there's tons of records on Kevin Patrick. There's tons of records on what's going on out there, but instead they're focusing on me when they have no proof. So, shining a light, salty droid. He's the one that's got that picture that says, Crystal Cox, not a porn star, not a journalist. And he's promoting that guy? I mean, anyway, whatever you can do to avoid the facts, I guess. Okay, so this is the one. I'm going to click on it here so that I can talk to you a little bit more about this one. Okay, for those of you not familiar with the case, okay, yes, the judge said that I was not a journalist because a number of poorly researched blog posts went up thereafter with the blogosphere rallying. Okay, right. I agree. People did not look at the case. They didn't really understand what was going on. They spouted things that most of the people just picked up what the Seattle Weekly said. I was on the TV news, I was in newspapers all around the world, really, and basically the AP did an article and everybody spread that. And the Seattle Weekly did an article, and then all of the bloggers seemed to pick that up. So basically, it's like a few sources and then everybody picks it up and runs with it. My blogs aren't really like that. I have linked to documents for people to check the facts for themselves. Okay, so then he says that Kashmir Hill did her homework and she was not one of the sloppy ones, and then it links to hers. Kashmir Hill is, of course, the worst of them all because she never did her homework. She never talked to me. She never did anything at all to investigate whether Kevin Patrick had a good reputation or not. I mean, if you look at Longview Fiber, what he tried to do to those folks. You look at Home Street Bank in Washington filed an objection to his fees. I think it's Yarrow Bay and then Cascadia over bankruptcy and issues there. They sued the state of Oregon over Oregon's solar credits. They have a whole bunch of solar companies, and they applied for $50 million in solar credits. Lake County, Oregon, there was a bunch of people upset with them there. They just got a massive contract. They say they lost millions in 2011, but they got a huge contract with, I think it's the Black Cat Project, and it's Pacificorp. And so basically they're making tons of money and they're doing well, and they've hurt people, and there's a whole bunch of people that have issue with them, but Kashmir Hill couldn't seem to find anything. And so basically she definitely is sloppy. She's accusing a blogger of criminal activity with no proof at all, only one email that an attorney sent her that she's taken as fact and taken out of context. And if she would look at the date, she'd see that it was after the lawsuit was filed, which is, you know, I was pro se, so it's between two attorneys. She's violated my rights, and apparently journalists such as Kashmir Hill can do that legally, and so can, you know, Marc Randazza, because he's a free speech, double talk, and hypocritical attorney. Okay, yes, there are bloggers who are journalists, but just because you have a blog doesn't mean what you do is journalism. I agree. And well, Kashmir Hill does not do journalism, okay? I don't know what you think. I guess as a society we have come to know journalists as not really giving us the facts. They just give us partial quotes and pieces of things and their interpretation of things. But what I was trying to do was give you documents, okay? Give you links to court audios, give you links to contracts, give you information to look inside of it. And yeah, I was yammering and cussing and doing my thing. I gave myself the job of trying to get the other people found. So I wasn't necessarily trying to provide all the documentation verbatim on my site until, well, Stephanie DeYoung's blog went down the day after my trial, and her blog was factual and had the documents. So I took, you know, parts of that and I'd link to her blogs and I'd give my opinion. And then her blog was, of course, gone, because after this, I mean, you know, proving defamation when on one blog post, and everybody seems to keep talking about tons of them, but I was on trial for one blog post. Okay, so now it's kind of a hate crime, I think, to out my location, right? So he's talking about where I am. How does he know where I am? Because my hate blog, my stalker has it on his blog. Plus, he also talks with David Amen. So, outing my location, citing hate against me, this is all part of a hate crime I'm getting ready to file. I'm also filing bar complaints against these guys. They're just a bunch of attorneys ganging up on me, as well as Forbes and the New York Times. And they have no proof that I extorted anyone. I did not extort Marc Randazza. He knows full well that he's the one that offered me money for that domain name, and I said no. And then after that, he was siding with the other side, so I bought a bunch of domain names, again with his name in it, like, you know, fuckmarkrandazza.com, markrandazza.com, to get in the search to try to make enough noise and expose what he did to me, so that before he did his deposition. And then for some reason he canceled his deposition, so it worked. So anyway, I didn't ask him for more after that, which Kashmir Hill likes to say, which isn't even true. But after I took over the search for his name, and I didn't even try later. Everybody's like, oh, well, we helped. You know, I didn't even try after the first 3 days. Whatever. I made my point. I did what I come in there to do. And then he emails me. The last email I got from him, well, actually it wasn't the last one, after he seen me taking over the search engines with my story about what he did to me, and, you know, negotiating with the other side without my permission and telling everybody that he represented me when he didn't, then he emailed me and said, you made your point, what do you want? And I, of course, ignored that, because that too was a setup for extortion, right? So then he was going to be deposed, right? So he's getting his documents and they're getting copied to me because I'm pro se. So I send him and the courts and opposing counsel the questions that I'm going to ask Marc Randazza, right? So this is a legal document. I'm pro se. He emails me back right away and says, I do not open attachments from this email address. Well, he obviously opened attachments from the opposing side. Anyway, you can see that I think I have it on markrandazza.com. You can see where it says that I have questions for him, and those are the questions that I will be asking him when he finally does get deposed, and at some point I'm sure that he will, because they really want to prove extortion, they really want to take domain names from me. So I will be asking him those questions as soon as I get a chance to, because he really did that to me. Now, Mr. Marc Randazza loves to talk about fact-checking and all this crazy stuff and how great Kashmir Hill is. Well, $2.3 million in damages is certainly not a fact. Okay? It was 2.5. I mean, just simple things. Okay, backstory. He has no idea what the backstory is. The backstory is 3 years long. Okay, filed a defamation lawsuit against Crystal Cox, a blogger from Eureka. Not true, really. He filed a defamation against a blogger from Colorado, because I was in Boulder. And now he's saying I'm in Spokane. Okay, so, because that's where David Amen deposed me. So, operates the website obsidianfinancesucks.com. Okay, when he posted this flat-out lie, I don't own that name. That name was stolen from me. That name has thousands of links to it within my sites. Somebody took it out of my GoDaddy account, and GoDaddy will not help me. All of those links are broken. I do not operate that blog. On that site, she called out Obsidian Finance, of which is a senior principal. Cox referred to Patrick as a thug and a thief. Okay, so he's talking about the site, and then he says a jury awarded Obsidian Finance the damages. Okay, they didn't award that money because I called him a thug and a thief. They awarded that money because David Amon painted me out to look like an extortionist, even though I didn't testify for myself because they said that the emails wouldn't come in because they were relevant, if that's the case, and I didn't call any witnesses because they did not give me the discovery I asked for to prove that they'd paid the deferred gain. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to prove that they lost any money. They just had to state that they lost the money, which they didn't. Remember, folks, December 25th, 2010. That's when the post went up. 20 days later, they sued me for $10 million. And that was over Christmas and New Year's, the biggest holiday of the year. They're saying they lost millions in those 20 days. They didn't even have to prove it. They had no spreadsheets, nothing. They just stated it, and away you go. All right, she claimed to be a journalist and thus entitled to protection under Oregon the Shield Law. Actually, I put the Shield Law in there, but I wanted the retraction law to apply, because if they didn't ever ask me to retract it. The thing is, the Shield Law really should apply to bloggers if a blogger is doing what a journalist does, and in that case I was getting information, documents, interviewing people, and I was posting that information. And so the Shield Law certainly should protect me in that situation and should protect my sources. So he doesn't have a full grasp of the case, that's for sure, which is another reason why I didn't choose him to be my lawyer. Even though some of the people are saying that I begged him to be my lawyer, I did not beg him, nor did I even ask him. He didn't contact me, I didn't contact him. We were both contacted by a third party, which was one of my bloggers. We accepted a meeting together, and then he asked me to send him documents. I never heard from him again until I heard from my attorney that I did choose tell me that I needed to let him know, that I needed to let Marc Randazza know that he did not represent me, because he was telling members of the First Amendment bar that he represented me, and he was negotiating with Obsidian Finance, with the plaintiff's side, on my behalf without my permission, without talking to me, and he didn't represent me. And if you don't believe this, you can subpoena or depose the lawyers that told me this. They're not going to lie to protect Marc Randazza. The information on this blog, it doesn't point to any facts of this. It's just, they're doing what they're accusing me of doing, they're doing. When actually I provided a whole bunch of documents, even videos of Kevin Patrick talking himself. So investigate the story instead of just discrediting the messenger, because the ironic thing of this is no matter how bad a messenger is, like say if someone used to be a coke addict, which I think cocaine is illegal, right? Well, David Carr used to be cocaine addict and he's reformed and whatever, right? So if he's doing something illegal, does that mean he's not a journalist? He's still a journalist. He's still media, even if he's doing something illegal. So none of it makes sense. It's all just a big smokescreen to try to cover up the fact that they don't want bloggers to be considered media so they can keep their foothold and shut down citizen journalists and whistleblowers and, just corner all those people and keep their monopoly. Okay, so according to Cash, found that created nearly 2,000 websites to write about other companies. Okay, not true. I never created 2,000 websites to do that. I have websites on real estate, alternative medicine. I have spiritual websites. I have photography websites. I have websites selling arginine. I have websites talking about cancer. I have tons of websites for tons of reasons. I don't have 2,000. At one point, I had a lot more than I did by the time that this article went out, but I don't just... That isn't what I do. I buy the domain names to do with what it is that I'm working on, or, like domainers, he certainly knows that domainers buy it. So, like the current media, for example, this guy, I think his name's George Zimmerman. A domainer bought GeorgeZimmerman.com because they've seen it in the media a lot. I think also SandraFluke.com, because it was in the media, some domainer bought it, and then they have ads on it so that they can make money from it, right? So basically, that's just what they do, and it's certainly not illegal. He's just trying to make it look like I've done something horrible, and he's saying that I've exploited a child and blah, 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 which I certainly haven't done. He's the one that promoted that I had that site. He's the one that publicized your picture. I never, ever had anything on that site. I got it to show him what a fool he was. Okay, Hernandez reasoned in his opinion that she did not qualify because my writing was barely comprehensible. Okay, so I'm not media because you can't hardly understand what I'm saying, you know? Okay, that makes sense. Not. The only thing clear about it is that she does not seem to write as a journalist or an essayist, but more as an extortionist trying to hide among the bloggers. Okay, I'm not trying to hide among the bloggers. I don't really care if you call me a blogger. I don't really care what you call me because, like I said, I know my truth. I posted to a bunch of documents of truth. I'm not trying to be any one of us, okay? I'm doing my own thing, and corruption bloggers are different than regular bloggers, okay? They're attacked. When they're exposing corruption, they're attacked by local judges. They're attacked by attorneys. They're attacked by, some of them are put in mental institutes because just to shut them up. There's a lot of things happen to people that expose corruption versus simply regular bloggers, you know? And so, yeah, they're bringing you the story. They're bringing you first-hand story. And I think a lot of times that bloggers are better at journalism because they're bringing you the story firsthand or from their industry, their expertise, and they're not necessarily paid for that story. They're not